remotely?
But you can mute yourself.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kathy's just joining. Yes, we do have quorum. I think once Steve gets back, we'll start. Oh, there's Ryan. And Chris. Hey. Like a minute? You need a minute? All right. We can call this meeting to order. This is the March 23, 2023 meeting of the School Building Committee. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the March 9 minutes.
I'd like to move we approve them.
Okay, we have a motion from Chris Kiefner, second from Madison. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, then all in favor of approving the March 9 minutes, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. That brings us to the opportunity for public input. Ryan, come on up.
You didn't want to just watch?
Please introduce yourself with your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Brian Coleman. I live at 26 Center Street, Mansfield Center, Connecticut. I am a citizen, but I'm also on the town council. I'm here today to discuss some issues that are before us. I mean, it's been plagued with a lot of issues all along. But let me start with the gym floor. In the March 9th School Building Committee meeting, Ryan Ellsworth, our town manager, spoke up and made it very clear that the town should not accept anything under 100% on that floor. It should be exactly new, unsanded, and installed. I don't know if the town of Mansfield has got an insurance adjuster that can work on their behalf. I take no excuses. I will not take excuse. Oh, no, we can't find the floor. It's 3/4 inch instead of 1 inch. We need 100% on that floor. Secondly, I FOIA'd all the facility work orders in regards to the new elementary school over there from the town. I received 6. They were for snow removal and sanding. That's it. I go by there every day. I see facility vehicles out there every day. They must be doing some sort of repair work at the site, obviously. So I would ask the town to revise that FOI for me. So as we look at the March 9th, 2023 meeting that you all had, you approved Consultant Engineering Services Incorporated in the amount of $113,440 in total services. We shouldn't be on the hook for any of this. This is because of the delay of contract, okay? Where are you people? You people are asleep at the wheel. You're supposed to be looking after us. You're not. You're very incapable. I'm sorry. I'm disgusted with your performance. Then we also had a PCO 164. There was a discussion about light sensors or control modifications, lighting control modifications. Some folks in the committee itself has asked the question, why are we paying for something that wasn't right to begin with? And you went on and you approved the PCO 164. You know, this is happening all along. You guys are asleep at the wheel. Now, I have a question for Chris Kiefner. Chris, you're on the vendor list. You're getting paid. I would like to know exactly what services you are rendering the town and how it's not a conflict of interest. And that's all I have. I'm going to sit right here and listen to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anybody else that would like to address the committee? None? Then we'll move on with our agenda. So next up is the update from the contractor, architect, and OPM. Maybe Peter, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you want to tell us a little bit about the open house that you had before we get into that?
Yeah, we'd love to, because we're gearing up for yet another round of tours. So last weekend, we opened up the campus. It was an outside event to get our families acclimated to the parking lot, playscape, and have them start to explore and learn about the building in terms of the outdoor features. So we had families, we probably had about 200 families, all said and done. Very positive event. By and large, people are just very excited and can't wait to move in. We were able to highlight many features of the building and continue to just hear community members talk about how proud they are of the net zero goal and design. And the building itself is just amazing. Probably the toughest critic was a fourth grader who gave 27 thumbs up on the playscape. So that's kind of a bit of a mic drop in terms of just how great the outdoor features are. And so I wanted to let the building committee know that starting on Monday, Lauren and her team will host grade level field trips that will include the students and the teachers during the day. And then at night, 4:30 to 6:30, families can visit. It's a self-guided tour, and they'll have a chance to do kind of a one-way loop through the building to visit the various grade level houses. And so we're putting together an interactive map and program. We'll have staff on site to answer questions.
And great. I'd stop by there one of the days. It seemed like there's a lot of activity.
Indeed. And we just met with the Mansfield Historical Society. They're putting together, you know, that we have these big, beautiful display cases and areas. And they are taking the opportunity to put together a curated display of Mansfield schools over the course of time. They have some just wonderful pictures and artifacts. And just talking to them, I realized that Mansfield has always had just this high value of education. It's not new for the town to be talking about buildings and consolidation and construction. So it was interesting to get that historical perspective, but we're excited to even have our town partners come in and celebrate the opening.
Right. Thank you, Peter. All right, then we have Steve and Al. I'm going to give us an update.
Sure, Randy. We're progressing towards the end pretty rapidly. The wallpaper, as people have seen, is being installed, the missing wallpaper. The mock-up was approved by Jeff with some nuance, as far as cutting the base on hard tile. That's progressing rather rapidly. We're going to defer the main stairway until Peter gets through with his walkthroughs, which I think is maybe the middle of next week. We can get that staged. I think by then that may be the last area that we have to do. Is that correct, Peter? When is your walkthroughs done?
Actually, we're taking the whole week. So next
Okay.
Friday is the last.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the dates, but Ben's coordinating that with you, correct?
Yes, yep, he has the dates and times. Yep.
The commissioning effort, today's meeting, I think we're at 95%, getting closer. A few other items popped up today that we're dealing with. Some relative to how the town, asking the town how they want to see certain areas of the building operate in off hours versus how it's designed to operate. So I think Bill is going to be meeting with our Rolls contractor to just go through what's been designed and how he wants to see it run. So we have an issue with 5 VAVs, which we're trying to get to the bottom of. It's curious that these 5 VAVs are the only ones tied to the heat pumps. So we think that maybe the heat pump fans may be causing an issue with the inline velocity of the VAVs. We're trying to design engineers on vacation this week, so we're hope to get to be able to at least identify what the issues are and how they can be resolved. The trench drain work outside is progressing. The underground was inspected by the building official today. So we're backfilling that. Hopefully we'll have that area poured out next week and completed. It's progressing in its repair. Drywall is being replaced in the gym. We should be done with the gym floor by the end of next week. Everything works out well. Have it sealed or be sealing it by the end of next week. So we were able to get that under the wire for the school opening. And we had a meeting with the pond, with the design engineers in the pond this past Monday. And how we would add the two catch basins per se, or the filtered rock
Dry wells.
Thank you, Jeff. They were installed on Tuesday, and we added today, and there's still water sitting in the pond. Joe Luciano was aware of it. I walked it over with him, and I don't want to say we're throwing our hands up in the air, but we're going to really need Tom Gugliotti and Fussin O'Neill to get out there and tell us what's next. And I think he's scheduled to come out there Monday or Tuesday of next week. I told Joe, give me an update on when that'll happen, and I'll be out there with him to review the next approach. So that's where we stand with the pond.
And Steve, when is the drywall in the men's bathroom is, where the like the changing table and everything was taken out?
We're waiting for the tile contractor. We don't want to put the drywall in and then just have him tell us that we didn't put it in right. He was supposed to be there this week. Ben's following up on that, but it's imminent. It should be happening next week. So on that end.
Could you clarify that, Randy? This is a subject I'm unfamiliar with.
With the flooding that happened, there's a changing table taking out of the men's room so you can see the drywall behind there. I think a garbage can.
And they cut a hole
Yeah.
as well. That's why.
Yeah, we removed the garbage, the recess disposal. We removed the baby changing table so we can see behind the wall. And we did cut out another patch or two where the tile was. I told Ben to get those products reinstalled, and we've actually hired the flooring contractor to put the drywall in because we don't want any finger pointing. But if they don't get to it, we'll patch the drywall and wait for the tile to show up.
Okay. Okay, question, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, what was the resolution with the gym floor? Were we able to replace the whole thing?
But we were not able to secure that material at that thickness.
Gotcha. And then you were a little bit muffled before when you were talking about the issues with the heat pumps. Can you state that again? I didn't quite hear what you said.
There's 5 VAV boxes that are connected to the heat pumps that are having some
Can you
velocity.
clarify what the initials stand for?
What does VAV stand for?
Variable air volume. They're actually mixing boxes that have their own internal fans in them. And we think there's a conflict at their locations and their proximity to the heat pumps, which have their own fans. And we're trying to work that through with the commissioning agent. Again, Craig wasn't on the commissioning meeting today, so we really didn't have much of a discussion other than we have an issue and it needs to get resolved. Of all the heat pumps, the 5 that aren't working properly are the ones directly, 5 VFDs that aren't working properly are directly tied to the heat pumps. We think that's maybe some inherent design that we have to kind of revisit. I mean, they work, to answer your question, but they don't work at the design set points that they want. So they do work. I mean, it's not like they don't work.
Is this tied to the heating issues that you were having in the foyer vestibules?
No, those are, and I apologize for not ever understanding the acronyms. That was the VRF system in admin. Have that working properly. It's not working according to design, but it's working. And we're waiting for Craig to come back. We had some discussions with Bill from the town on that one issue. But right now, it's comfortable in there and it's doing what it's supposed to do, but not doing it according to design. And we may think that there's something with the differential pressure switch in there and starts getting into the weeds. But yeah, it's working right now, but not to the design.
Thank you.
Steve, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
We do have the black locust, by the way, and we'll be cutting those benches and have those ready for school. As if people have been to the site, you've seen that the bituminous paving repair areas have now been cut out. And I think it's the week of April 7th. The paving contractor is scheduled to be there. We've got the landscaping contractor mobilized, probably start showing up next week. Start cleaning up certain areas, getting in the plants that were missing from this past winter. And again, I think we're progressing towards the end.
And how much of the punch list do you think is left?
I think by next week, it'll be all done.
So Jeff, you'll be out there at that point?
Yeah.
Jeff could come out anytime if he wants. I mean, there's probably 85% of it done. He can get a head start. You don't have to wait for it all to be done for him to show up.
Steve, is there any sort of a centralized place for this punch list? As I've seen things I've been concerned about, I don't know if they're actually landing on the punch list and what's tuning in. One thing I'm thinking of is just a little rise in, like something's underneath a tile in the kindergarten area, for example.
I know it's in Procore, but I think with the only share file that we would have that people can view it. I can have Ben publish an update and get it out to everybody.
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right.
But I'd also like to have that, make sure that, I don't know what's on it. So just making sure that kind of thing is on it. I
Yeah.
pointed out stuff to Ben about door sweeps. And a couple other things today.
Yeah, we've got the door contractor back on the job. We've got issues with the closers in the classrooms based on how difficult it is to push them open and how quickly they close. So he's looking at every one of them, and Ben's been tasked when he's completed with 2 or 3 doors. He wants to review them for functionability. So yeah, we should have that handled in the next week or so. A lot of doors, but once we get a system down, we can get all those doors tuned up properly. Ben's aware of this anomaly in the floor tile, Chris?
No, that, well, I think he may be, but it's been somebody, I had seen it probably 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I don't know if he knows about it or not. I bet he does. He knows about
I'll speak-
everything.
Yeah. I'll speak to him about it.
Great. It's on the
You said-
south side of the kindergarten hallway.
All right, I'll talk to him tomorrow about it.
Okay. Jeff, do you want to give your update?
Yeah, so basically what I've been doing is I'm working with Ben on the high performance school submission that we have to make sure we hit these points. So he's got an Excel spreadsheet that he's finalizing tomorrow. So I'll get to see that. Putting together the as-built or record set of drawings, including AutoCAD drawings for the town. So I have all my consultants starting to send some of those in. I got the kitchen drawings. Next week, I'll start getting structural and mechanical. So I'll get all that together and turn that over to the town. I did speak with Derek Delage, the town engineer, so I got an understanding of his format, what he needs, what he wants, and I think we're on the same page. On a completely separate note, we were also tasked to work on the facilities project, and there was a whole bunch of drawings that were in the depot campus that I went ahead and scanned. So I'm uploading those with Jamie for the town, so they have digital copies of things like the senior center, the town hall. You know, these drawings were in sort of not so great shape, so I took the liberty to just make sure that I scanned as much of those things in that warehouse that you guys had so that you guys could have it all digitized. So other than that, back to Mansfield. It looks like next week I'm out there walking the punch list, checking things off, and I will look at what Chris is pointing out as well with that floor hump. And that's basically it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, can you give us an update on the cap for the stone wall?
Yeah, I got the PCO for that and noticed there were some errors in the quantities. And Al has corrected that and resubmitted it. So I am in discussion right now with Adam of Colliers to decide, because for me, it still feels like the labor is, you know, kind of high. The cost is kind of high. So we're working on that right now. But looks like what we would like to get in there is the 6 foot long pieces of the blue stone, 2 inches thick, which Newfield's able to get. I think the less joints, the better, but I'm still looking at the cost.
Questions for Jeff? Go ahead, Tony.
With all of this issue of things not performing quite up to design, I'm a little concerned about the net neutrality of the building at the end of the year. Are we still on track to make it?
Yes, according to Craig Raza, he has built in extra in the PV system on the roof to account for any discrepancies in that. So as far as our engineers are concerned, we're still going to meet or exceed that.
And my other question is really for Steve. I don't understand why the air circulation and the heat pumps would interfere with one another. Are they pumping the same air?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think you said correct.
Jeff, I'm back on the wall business. as I understand it, we had basically Newfield contracted to build the whole wall done. And now we have to pay separately for the top?
Well, the discussion that we're having or had for a while is that the 18-inch by 18-inch seat wall stone cap that I had marked on the drawing, the sketch that was submitted for the early PR. What came to the site was an 18 by 18-inch piece of stone, but it had iron pits in it. So my concern was I didn't want the kids sitting on that outside with the teachers, and that iron pitting sort of stains their clothes. So I flipped some of the stones over, and there were some stones that had like maybe 60% of what I thought was perfect. And then maybe for the rest of the 40% had some pitting. So I had asked the question if there's a way they can actually, get the stone that matches the 60% area that I think would have been acceptable. So then what I receive is a credit for all that stone, and they took the stone away. So I have not signed that credit for the amount of stone, but in the interest of getting the project done, I was asked to select from some different types of stone that would be acceptable. So I chose a blue stone, and we were waiting on the cost, assuming we would get a credit back for the cap that they had initially funded to be put in the project, which I did not accept because I thought the iron pitting was a bad idea. Plus it had some sharp edges. So now we got a cost associated with we got a credit back of I think it was like $2,200. That included the stone and the labor for the cap. And then we got a cost increase of $10,000 plus for the new blue stone. So I'm vetting that right now with Colliers, and we're going to see what happens after that. I'm questioning the fact that maybe we should get more in the labor in the initial stone to offset the 10,000 plus for the new blue stone cap. The whole idea of this wall was, for me, there's a beautiful piece of Mansfield along Browns Road. It's called the Dewing Wall. And there's some history to that wall. So I wanted a piece of that, holding the memory of that in the new school, so that when the kids are sitting on it, the teachers are, teaching music, or they're performing out in that plaza, that it could be a remembrance, a memory, or a link to the history. So I was hoping that this thing would be a magical element, so to speak. So I'm being kind of particular with the cap on this to make sure that it comes out nice.
But Jeff, I'm just thrown because the Dewing Wall certainly does not have bluestone on the top. So seems like the magic is lost.
Well, the whole thing too is that the stone that is in that wall they're very large pieces. So it seems like they're not able to get that.
They don't make them anymore, huh?
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jeff? Right, Adam, do you want to take it from there?
Evening, everyone. So the only things I would add to what Steve and Jeff and Peter had mentioned, we also had an on-site with the neighbors that to kind of tour the building and the site, and that exercise, for the ones that showed up, that was very positive. Everything I heard was good reviews and positive outlooks of the type of the building and the site, and obviously there was a shared frustration over just having to live next to construction, but Peter and Chris Kiefner, if you want to augment this, feel free, but I thought it was a very good and heartening experience for everyone involved, and it was a good walkthrough. So that was another element that happened, I think last Monday was when that occurred. In general, lots of wrap-up items, balancing and testing. I've been working with Peter and Lauren and Jamie on some of the additional, once and scope items to come up as you kind of walk in the building. As you start setting things up, you notice, does it want to be a chair here, or does it want to be something in another portion of the building? So some of the procurement items we'll go over here in a moment reflect some of those efforts over the past couple of weeks. But otherwise, it's just a lot of prep work and cleanup and working with Newfield, and they've been doing a great job of working with the various staff members and whatnot that have come in to try to accommodate both getting work done and people coming in and moving into their new home. So lots of little odds and ends that sort of rise up and then get resolved in the middle of the same day type of tasks. Also been working with TSKP and Susan about the remaining outstanding punch list items for the furniture and getting those last bits and components resolved. There's always, every job has pieces of furniture that come in and there's a scratch on it that was in the warehouse or something like that. So it gets rejected and a new component comes in. So working through those tasks as well. That's sort of the balance of the items from what Jeff and Steve had mentioned. Otherwise, the remaining portion of what I was talking about would be the procurement items and invoices.
Questions? Go ahead, Chris.
This may actually be for Steve, but you mentioned cleanup, Adam. So what is the story with the trailer? Are we gonna get to keep that thing, or what's the deal?
No, that'd be
The trailer's leaving, I think, the 25th.
Steve, I lost you totally. The trailer, what's going on?
The trailer's leaving, I believe, on 27th, Monday.
Great.
And then
Thank you.
the topsoil gets spread at that point?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, BB will move right into that area. Get that work cleaned up and done. I think there's some landscaping over there too. Not much, but there is.
Steve, go ahead.
Sure, Adam. So as we check the final things off the punch list, anything that's not done when school opens, is that done outside of school hours?
That would need to be coordinated on off hours or weekends or what have you, so it doesn't interrupt school operations.
Gotcha. And then are there special provisions that are made for the first day of school or the first couple of days of school, as we have, 600 or 700 people in the building? We're liable to find things that we didn't find so far. Are we worried about, do we have special contingencies for that, or no? When you open a new school, you just see how it goes?
There's always things that people notice, and some of them will be items that are preferences more than contractual issues. So as the wave of people come in and explore the different spaces, we'll take stock of anything that's noted, and similar to what just occurred with some of the requests that have been coming in, we'll gather those and identify which items are items that do need to be addressed and just no one happened to see it before, versus items that are perhaps more, like I said, preferences rather than deficiencies, and gather and call that list and then work it out with Newfield. And if there are items that aren't contractual issues, but they're items that the town wants to explore, we'll take those again on a case by case basis and work through what needs to be resolved.
Thank you.
This is a question for Peter, I think. Are teachers going to have time to learn how to work the systems in their classrooms? Because the classrooms themselves are pretty complex.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. And Lauren, Becky, and Jamie have really thought that through. And so that teachers are working in the building. Lauren has been leading faculty meetings and professional learning in the building. And so we're trying to do this one bite at a time. There's never going to be a sit and get all the information. And so even just like the light switches, we're providing kind of a handout just so that teachers can refer to the handout to learn about the switches. I thought Jamie and his team did something really amazing. They scheduled kind of a 15-minute break with teachers when they were working in their classroom to just do a quick kind of overview orientation to the smart board. So Fortunately, many of our teachers are familiar with the technology, and the pieces that they're not, we know that there's some that are more urgent that we need to address right away. But overall, we're embracing this idea of a soft opening, that we're going to keep kids safe and engaged. We're going to support our staff, and over time, they will learn more and more about the building and the technology.
And yeah, I mean, the classrooms are looking good. I mean, they're getting set up. So
Randy,
Adam,
Randy, this is Steve, we're gonna
Yes.
keep Ben up there too. I mean, if there's anything like a door that doesn't open or operate, we'll have him there. Any questions that the principal may have. So he's gonna remain up there. I think he's moving into the mechanical room and he'll be there during the day. Any work that can't be completed and punch list not done will be coordinated with the principal on off hours. To answer
Okay.
that question.
so Adam or Alan or Bill, question is raised about the number of work orders there are for town facilities people. Are they getting a work order every time they're out at the school? Are they out there for other purposes as well?
There's some people that are out there for other purposes. Right now, Bill and Mary, they both are my supervisors. They're out there looking over things. Mary for custodial staff and Bill for coordination with contractors. The other thing, some of our maintenance helping on, and it might be attached to another building, but they're starting to pick up goods from some of the other buildings and they're bringing it to the new building. So you see that happening quite a bit. And then I have custodial staff over there and their work's not recorded in the work order system per se. A lot of, the only other work we've had done over there is to do with making keys, which is probably happening at the shop for staff. And then we've done some stuff with the boxes for the mailboxes, putting dividers in. And I think a little work in one of the bathrooms right now currently. But other than that, most things should still be under warranty and we would be calling the on the warranty.
Alan, what kinds of things would you be doing? Would you have work orders for that you've been doing there?
Mostly it would be kind of like alterations, if you get things, it'd be, teacher maybe want something hung here or moved there, or it'd be that kind of work that you would probably see for the most part right now. We might be the first response to see whether something tripped out or something like that we could easily reset. But most things would be in the category of alteration.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to jump in and thank Alan and his crew. We've crossed many departments to get this building open and support staff. Alan has really shifted his crew, to increase the access to the building. We know that teachers need time to set up the classroom. And so as they're setting up, they're generating a lot of kind of debris, empty boxes. And we're getting ahead of the move. So I know Alan's team moved 380 teacher boxes last week. As teachers are ready to move things, they're getting them out ahead of time so that they can actually unpack without kind of the last minute rush of it. So kudos to that team, and I appreciate the moving and support of that.
Okay. And then Adam, the commissioning on the invoice last time we were paying the commissioning agent. Is that part of the standard contract for the commissioner as he's doing his work now?
Yes, there was I don't have the figures in front of me, but the base contract was established a while ago. This was at the last committee meeting, there was a first change order for this commissioning agent. So the value of that change order, if I recall correctly, was $6,600. So we've been working with the commissioning agent to sort of allocate their time appropriately. So that way they weren't just burning hours while there was no DOAS unit on hand. So they had stretched that time for the better part of 8 months or whatever it was between start of school and now. It's just now that they were at the end of the wick, so to speak, and needed some additional funds to carry over from the stretching exercise.
Okay, any other questions on? Okay.
I do have one.
go ahead, Tom.
And I think Steve may have answered this earlier, but I was confused in what he said. The wallpaper that has the quote unquote trees on it, which I think of as pencils, but
Right.
that colorful wallpaper, what is its, when is it, I assume it's not going to be hung, and I'm just wondering, not yet, but I'm just wondering, when is it going up?
We call them pencils too. It's hung in the atrium. If you headed down there, you'll see it all along the atrium, looking up from the calf. On that upper level. The next area that we have to move in with that patterned wallpaper is in the stair tower and in front of the elevator. Both locations need to be staged. And we're holding off that work until Peter has his walkthroughs finished. So if it's next week, we'll do that the week after. In the interim, they're doing all the solid colors. I think the red and the orange are done in the pre-K areas, are substantially complete as of today. They're moving into the blue areas, I think, tomorrow. So next week, we'll just progress with all the solid paper that also arrived. And then move right into the stair tower. And then I think there's a couple of pieces that go in front of the elevator. And again, it's all relative to staging and coordination with Peter's efforts.
This must really transform the experience of the building to have all this color in. Randy just showed me the image of the wallpaper in the atrium, and it looks great.
Yeah, the pencils, yeah.
Yeah.
It does look good, and there's in the kindergarten wing, there's a lot of red now, so it does add a lot of the colors to it. Before we move on to the PCO, maybe Peter, could you address the question of Chris Kiefer being on the vendor list?
I can. So we're going to go back to pandemic and the closing of school. In the fall of 2020, we had received ARP ESSER funds to accelerate learning and to think differently with some funding to help support students in many different ways. And so we thought of some very creative ways. And so Chris started supporting remote learners by creating field trips that were online. And he did such an engaging job with that that I think the whole leadership team was impressed. And we know that students were positively impacted by his work. We also needed someone to start to work with our STEM enrichment teachers to learn about the building. We believe that this building is a teaching tool, and we wanted to get ahead of it with our STEM science teachers to work with Chris, who was really kind of a tour guide, a conduit, a docent, and spent time with them, helping them learn about the building and the systems so that they could plan lessons with students. We have always thought of, back then it was the third grade students we were thinking as of our ambassadors, but because we didn't open up on schedule, they're now in fourth grade, and those ambassadors really were supported by Chris and the STEM teacher who've done that. And then we continue to use grant money to support how to use media when students couldn't be in the building and families and teachers couldn't be in the building. How can we leverage the use of technology and videos and graphics to best capture the systems as a teaching tool?
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Peter, for clarifying. I don't know if any of the committee members have any questions about the video visits that I've done. That has been work that I've been paid for, the time I've been paid for, the research I do on those and so forth. And as well as, again, as Peter mentioned, working with students when that's come up. And more recently, Peter's had me working on basically a remote and on-site tour guide, way of giving yourself a self-guided tour through QR codes and so forth. So I've been writing pieces for that and doing videos for that as well, or voiceovers as appropriate. So I have enjoyed it. I hope to continue it, and I don't see it as a conflict. I've made it a point not to mix the two up in my mind. In fact, just, tour guides helping the kids become tour guides is one of the longer term assignments. And when I was on site for the tour guides were needed for town council members. That was not on any kind of paid time. That was this work here on this committee. As Randy was there as well, and I think there was another committee member as well. So I've been very conscious about it, and I believe conscientious. And if anybody has any questions, ask me directly. I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Just for the record, you do have a teaching credential.
Yes, I'm actually, I've retired as a full-time teacher, and yes, I'm still, I've got all the certifications and so forth, or the various up-to-date trainings that you need to have to be in a school.
And you focused on STEM stuff yourself?
I taught gifted and talented, so it was a very broad area. So there's plenty of STEM kinds of things in there, and then frankly, everything else as well. So.
Thank you.
Lauren, you want to add?
I don't often speak to the committee, but I want everyone to know how much Chris and I have worked collaboratively through all of the projects that have been mentioned. He's a huge think partner. He knows all about the building. And I just want to say thank you, Chris, for the work that you've done. You've lifted up things that were ideas that became reality. And I have great appreciation for your talent and your partnership through this project.
If the people on the committee haven't seen the videos of geothermal and solar and so on, I encourage you to go look at those. They're amazing. They're so much fun to watch. So thanks. And that was Chris. Okay, then with that, if there are no other questions, we can move on to the PCOs and procurement review. Adam?
Yes, so there are sort of a few components to the PCOs and the procurements. Actually, there aren't any PCOs up for vote tonight, but there are some items to share that were approved on an expedited basis. So I will share my screen here. So the first item, and these first items are just for reference, as I mentioned, was PCO 165. This was an item for adding 2 cameras to the main level. This was in coordination with Jamie, where based on the field of views of the cameras, there were 2 spots that wanted some additional coverage, just to ensure everything had all the bases checked. So this was approved on an expedited basis to ensure that the contractors that were on site could do the work in time for school opening. The second item that was approved on an expedited basis was PCO 168. This is for 3 additional wireless access points for Wi-Fi in the building, and a similar function to ensure some greater coverage. This was at the exterior of the building where they're harder to install. So you can't just have someone come up with a ladder on the inside and install them. So similar reasoning, approved on an expedited basis to ensure the contractors could get scheduled and aligned and the items resolved before start of school.
And Jamie has joined us if there's any
Yes.
questions about any of the technology. And there's other things coming up that Jamie can contribute to as well, but. What was it? Labs. Okay, go ahead, Adam.
The third item was PCO 167. This was for changing 3 classroom signs. They originally had one designation, but in coordination with just Peter and how the names rooms want to be labeled, a change was requested to label them as just classrooms. So that was a change to Newfield, and again procured so that way the signs could be ordered. And the last item that was approved on an expedited basis was through one of the FF&E vendors for some additional chairs and shelves. This is sort of a similar item to some FF&E items that are going to be up before the committee here in a moment. This one, there was some timing concerns around the shelving and making sure that that was in place before the move was done. So this component of it was pulled out and approved on an expedited basis. However, the remainder of it was less time sensitive. So I'm going to put that portion of it in front of the committee for review and approval.
And I'm sorry, can you repeat part of what you said you cut out? It was,
Sure. This was approval for some chairs and shelving approved on an expedited basis so that the shelving was in place before the move happened. However, the remaining portion of the additional furniture requests we'll be looking at in a moment for committee authorization.
and so it was shelving that fits with what's already there? I'm just confused
For
about where.
storage. Where is it?
For storage.
Go?
This is in the gym, and I think there's one in additional in the nurse's office, and I think one in the main administrative space. Lauren is there, she can speak to where they might be.
And Lauren says yes. So it's not the standard classroom.
Right. This is.
It's not the cabinetry that
no,
we've
no.
seen in the
No.
classrooms.
No,
Okay.
these are, this is storage that would be installed again in, permanent storage that would be in the wall, not on wheels. And it wasn't put aside for, so it wasn't planned to be done. We had some open closets with no shelving in them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any questions on any of those before I move on to some of the items up for review and vote, potential vote?
Chris?
Yeah, Adam, if I can ask a couple of questions on this. I saw on the signs, this is my preoccupation all the time. Why did this happen? So who's taking the heat, so to speak? So I see it's an owner enhancement for the signs. Does that mean that on the plans, it said the names that were printed, that were first created, the signs that were first created, and then we decided subsequently to change it?
Correct.
Okay. On the cameras, so Jeff, this might be for you too. But on the cameras, I thought this whole thing went to some uber duper expert on security and that we wouldn't have this kind of problem, especially 2 cameras. Anyway, help. How does this happen?
Well, evidently Jamie saw an opportunity to do due diligence in the coverage. So there was probably a weak spot in the overlapped area, and one wasn't really covering the overlap quite as much as he wanted. So he requested 2 additional cameras to help with that.
Well, I get that part, but it's just like, I thought that this went through, was really vetted by, security is a big deal, as you very well know. And I thought that this stuff was vetted by some people who were really good at this.
Yeah, but
And it wasn't like it was, and I don't mean to have you on the defensive, and maybe Richard's job to do that, but it's.
well, there is, I hear where
Wow.
you're going, I hear where you're going with it, but I think every district has their own sort of, I don't want to say, Jamie's very good at what he does. So when he asks for something, I don't even hesitate. I write it up and we get it done. Other districts, maybe a 3-foot overlap or a certain section might be okay. Right. So I think we're all trying to do
So-
our due diligence, and
So, but you keep going back to Jamie, Jeff. I'm going back to the consultant that you guys would have hired to tell us tell you where to put the cameras. That's where my head is and how they missed this.
well, I don't know that it was a
if you want me to
miss.
jump in or not there, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jamie.
go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if this will entirely address what you're asking, Chris, but I do understand where you're going. I guess from my perspective, I understand why they missed these two spots. One is over by the elevator, and one is over by a secondary exit entrance over in pre-K. I know I looked at the plans. I wouldn't have anticipated that they were weak spots, but then when you looked at the actual cameras and just based on the angles and where the walls were and exactly how it felt like in the pre-KK, we had coverage, but we didn't have a clear enough coverage of that alternate exit entrance. And then over by the elevator, same thing. We had some coverage, but really not coverage I felt comfortable with adequate wise. That's over by the elevator. There's that back exit there. So I think overall, my opinion was, I thought they did a very good job. I think we have excellent coverage in the building, but those were two spots just based on the angle, felt like they were weak spots. And particularly given the fact that both of those have an entrance exit, felt like we needed better coverage there. So if that's helpful from my perspective, I felt like they did their due diligence. It's just once you actually saw the angles with the actual building, it just wasn't quite enough.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate your explanation and you're giving it a thorough relook.
Anything else on those? Otherwise, I can get into the other items for review. Okay, I'll share my screen here again. So start off with some of the FF&E, the other components of the FF&E. After some individuals have gone through the schools and working closely with Principal Rodriguez and Superintendent Dart, identified what additional chairs or cushion caddies or stools or things of that nature would flesh out the space. Now that you're actually sitting in the building, looking in the building, identifying how much exact space is in each of the classrooms, etc. So the list that's compiled here is the outcome from that effort, working with TSKP and the existing vendors to coordinate items that matched what was already procured for the school. So at the exception, I think one item, which is some orange chairs, all of these are components that are in the school already. There's just the desire to have some more of them throughout the various vendors. And in your packets, there were some images of some of these, so we can talk about any of these as desired, but the ask is for 3 motions to approve change orders via the proposals for WB Mason, Red Thread, and Robert Lord.
This is intriguing to me. I don't know which one is which. And furthermore, I'm a little colorblind. So when I see the stuff, I don't know what it is, but it's sure, and it may be the wrong color for the house, particular house. But it seems as if there are a lot of pieces of furniture that because of a given classroom's, count in a given year, a teacher is saying, I don't need this table. I don't need this chair. And again, maybe the answer is that they're the wrong color. But I'm just curious. I'm just surprised to see this. I just wouldn't have thought it, given all of the planning and what seemed very, very thorough work that Susan did. But Lauren is going to clarify it all.
Yeah.
I appreciate that comment and understand where it's coming from. As we moved into the building and started to move things around, the first, a couple things were small type items, like you have a teacher desk. We were kind of hoping 2 people would share a desk. Sometimes 2 people sharing a desk is a big inconvenience. So we did that a few times in areas. And then those teacher desks, once they didn't feel comfortable with not having a desk, then that chair came with that, and the second one and the third one. And then as we brought our para educators through the building, this is an example of people felt uncomfortable. They didn't have a chair that would fit some of the spaces. Some of this is, or I think there are moves like that where people felt that they wanted to bring furniture in from their homes. They would be more comfortable. It wasn't going to work for them. There's been, without going into laborious conversations and details here, I can share with you that it is true that the building was really well furnished and everything, looked very good. As people become more and more comfortable in the space and try to find themselves and their work in the space, sometimes it was a little short. It was a little short. It kind of reminds me of what Jamie just shared. There's just pieces once you moved in that you thought, oh gosh. I can tell you this, you won't want to hear this, but there's a lot of other things that did not get moved in forward. There are many, many people have thoughts, and there's a lot of times that we've said, no, 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 no. This is the most important list of things that I really felt like to push forward to make sure that we had them for, every comfort. So, I understand why you might think it's a bit extravagant. I truly didn't feel it was. I felt like they were things that were necessary to be able to make people feel efficient, effective, and comfortable in their positions and their roles.
Adam, does this fall under, as FF&E, does this fall under the reimbursement from the state, or is this all on us?
This would be put forward to the state for consideration as reimbursement. So the FF&E package gets reviewed as a whole prior to going out to bid, in the same way that the project itself went out to OSCGR review prior to bid. And what will happen before the end of the project is closed out financially with the state is any change orders or additional contracts or whatnot will be reviewed to determine eligibility. That happens along the way for major items like Newfield's change orders. For things like additions to furniture or for some of the smaller vendors, et cetera, it gets reviewed at the end. So I would be categorizing this as putting it up for consideration for eligibility, and then the state would make a determination on whether or not they feel it enhances the program and is an appropriate ask from that standpoint.
Great. Thank you very much.
Adam, can you tell me what the last item is in that top section?
And this one,
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing an eye
That's-
test. I think it
sorry,
says D
that's-
and I.
delivery and installation.
Thank you. It's those acronyms again.
Okay. So there's 3 different quotes from 3 different vendors. I don't know if there's someone on the committee would like to make a motion for, I think we could handle them separately, or you can combine them into one, but
I would do
Um,
it separately if
okay, let's do them
possible.
separate.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm happy to make that motion. I agree with what was said before, somebody, I think Jeff said, if Jamie says it needs to happen, it needs to happen. If Lauren says this needs to happen, it needs to happen. So I am happy to make a motion to approve the change order quote dated March 20th, 2023 from WB Mason in the amount of $27,545.23 for additional chairs and furniture.
Okay, is there a motion? There's a second? Madison, thank you. And all in favor? Please indicate. Any opposed? Abstentions, okay, thank you.
Okay, I would follow that with a motion to approve change order quote 831385 from Red Thread in the amount of $3,080 for additional cushions and caddies.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Madison again, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions?
Okay, and finally, a motion to approve change order quote 35181 from Robert H. Lord in the amount of $7,232.05 for additional chairs and stools.
Thank you, Mary. Second. Steve? All in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
Okay, the next item for consideration, just kind of going down the list here, is, I'm gonna share my screen again. This is a request from facilities with regard to loose walk-off mats throughout the building. This is from Hilliard, who I understand the town works with already. So this is for the $4,500 quote.
Tony.
I don't know if Alan or Bill are on the line, or if there's any questions on this one.
What is a walk-off mat?
Or
Maybe Alan can
Yeah.
talk about what these are for.
Sure, these are the entryway mats, when you first walk in the building. So this is just collecting any dirt before people get in the building.
And this is for multiple doors.
That's for multiple doors, right? So it should cover, the primary entrances.
Any questions other than that or motion?
Make the motion.
Sure.
Move to approve a quote, number 1055 from Hilliard in the amount of $4,503.83 for walk-off mats.
Okay, I think the quote number is 1955, but
Yeah,
The rest is okay.
1955.
okay. We have a motion from Tony. Is there a second? Steve, thanks. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
A little
Oh,
tardy
yeah.
on the question.
Okay.
But we need them, so great. Would that normally be included in the building itself? Or not ever?
it's a loose component, so it in and of itself, under a separate package, whether it be FF&E or purchased through the town, it's not necessarily uncommon for these loose type items rather than have it go through the general contractor.
Okay.
All right, the third item is light speed speakers. You will note, I'm not sure if any of you had the printed motions or the document. There was a swap of the document just an hour or two ago based on an updated figure there. So if the committee is entertaining a motion, I'll screen share the revised motion that's got the corrected values. But Peter and Jamie, I think you might be better off suited to explain this one.
Sure.
or
Thank you.
Shamim.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pass it to Shamim and then Lauren, and Jamie. But basically, what we would like the building committee to consider is a sound field system augmenting voice volume in the classrooms. We know from the pandemic that we often had to augment the sound for students because of masks. We also have students who use FM systems for listening and increasing hearing capability. And with the level of technology that's in the building, we felt that exploring this option would be appropriate because it's a universal design. It's something that's going to help our staff and students. And so I'm going to turn it over to Shamim, Dr. Patwa, our Director of Student Support Services.
Thanks. I think you've basically covered it in a few words, Peter, but we have a lot of students who have a range of hearing needs, and seeing the technology that we got to witness, it would be exactly what Peter said, a universal design that reaches a lot of different children. We have children who have central auditory processing disorder, attention disorder, and of course, children who have hearing aids. And currently, the systems we have are dated and will need turnover. This would be a wonderful option. It's got a great deal of flexibility. And the sound was so clear that it would just be a wonderful asset to the rooms.
Tony.
So is this something the kids would wear, or is it broadcast the sound to everybody?
It broadcasts the sound. It's a lanyard that the teacher would wear. And then a very subtle speaker in the back of the room. We're in the front of the room, side of the room.
Somewhere in the room. Lauren would like to.
I
talk
would
about
just jump in just a little bit. We're experiencing that sound right now. We have a speaker that is giving us, an augmented version. That is what students would experience. A teacher would be able to speak at a normal voice. They wouldn't have to be screaming or, raising their voice. You have to keep in mind some of the design features, as beautiful as they are, the vaulted ceiling creates some level of bounce in the room. And when you have a system like this, it gives you that ability to create an ability to really hear better. We sat in a trial system. We've had a few areas that we've been curious, how is it going to go? The Great Hall is one area where we've looked at people teaching in that space. How can we make this where a teacher wouldn't feel like they need to be screaming at kids, but they could simply talk? It wouldn't cause strain on their vocal cords. Music teachers have asked for this for years. And during the pandemic, we used these voice amplification systems, but they've come a long way. So instead of someone just having one headpiece and one little speaker, which is what we used during the pandemic, this is a system that every classroom would have. Students would be able to have a microphone that they could then pass around so that they would immediately be amplified as well. And there's also other options for add-on features. So it did create something exciting. I knew we had talked about it earlier in the stages, and then it wasn't part of the design. So I'm happy to see this kind of come forward and give us an opportunity. Personally speaking, I'm deaf in one ear. And I found myself very, very comfortable listening to the sounds. It was really, it's remarkable technology.
Yeah, Lauren, Shamim, Peter have done an excellent job describing it. So I would echo all of their thoughts. Just want to say we've been really impressed with it. Express a great deal of appreciation to Hope Mulholland, who's taken a lot of leadership on this, as well as a number of elementary teachers who graciously agreed to test different systems in their classrooms. We looked at a number of different systems to make sure we had the one that was the right fit for this building and for our teaching practices, and felt that Lightspeed was our best choice. And as the others have said, I've really been impressed with the impact it has, both in terms of making it easier for students to hear in the classroom, but also making it easier for the teacher to hear students. And also, as was mentioned as well, it really does save the teacher's voice. It really reflected on that. As you think back to teaching, you spend a lot of your day trying to sound loud. That is particularly so, as Lauren said, in rooms with high vaulted ceilings. With this device, you can speak at a very normal level and be heard very clearly throughout the room. Not only as the teacher, but also students benefit as well because there's a student microphone.
I had her hand up.
Oh, I had my hand up to make the motion. So
Oh.
if there's
Yeah.
more discussion. I'm
Yeah,
happy
I
to
mean,
wait
can you
on
just
that.
give us an approximate count, or maybe Lauren, you have a count of kids who've got hearing issues at the elementary level?
Well, it's not just hearing issues, Chris. It is, we do have quite a number of students who are coming in with hearing aids, but we also have children who have, it's the attention issues, and having amplification is one way to, make sure they're hearing, especially in a space that might have difficulty in sound.
It's often a first recommendation that we get.
So can you speak louder?
It's often one of the first recommendations that we get, that we sometimes have had trouble figuring out how someone with an auditory processing disorder, having the amplified sound, sometimes, it creates that attention, where they're able to focus. So yeah, the student, I don't know that I'm happy to share with you after about the hearing loss. It's not a large number. That's not the main reason that we're looking to do this. The majority of students who have hearing loss, or that we help identify who we find out that they have hearing loss. Oftentimes they have systems, that work with them by themselves. This one could work in tandem with it as well. So it's more for the whole group, if that makes sense.
If I may, Scott Pellman from Colliers, I've had these systems put in other schools. I've actually installed them as an architect in the past in other schools. And there's studies where there's a 30 to 40% loss in retention from a teacher in a normal classroom, just talking in a normal voice from the front to the back row. So you're not necessarily even talking about children with hearing impairments, but it's a matter of retention and clarity. So a teacher can now talk just as I'm talking to you in a normal voice. In the front row, because of the speakers that are now interspersed in the classroom, the front row is hearing everything exactly as clear as the back row, or the back row hearing as the front. So it's really not, it's wonderful for students that have hearing impairments, but from a clarity standpoint across the board for all students to be able to hear the instructions clearly front to back row, the studies have shown that it makes a great difference.
Could you repeat that?
I also wanted to make the point that there have been many times within a classroom where a student is asked to speak up, and they can be very tentative. They can be a little embarrassed. I'm remembering a time when we were piloting something and we had 2 classrooms of kids in one room, and a teacher was out there with the loudest, most excited voice possible and called on a kid, and her answer was given in a little whisper. And the response was, "Speak up, no one can hear you." And she wanted to crawl under the table. So any opportunity technologically that can take that fear away from a kid to be able to say, I can just talk in my regular voice and people can hear me and I can add value. Easy. Yet another reason why I would like to make a motion.
Well, before you do, I have another question, not dealing with the system itself, but this is a new vendor. Do we need to go out to bid or something on this kind of a thing?
Sure, I can speak to that if you like. So in this particular case, this technology is part of what's called the PEPM contract. PEPM is a multi-state consortium that is accessible not only to schools, but other public entities as well. So for some technologies, particularly specialty technologies like this, they do multi-state bidding and acquire best pricing and competition on it. So this one falls under, similar to, you might hear state contracts. This just happens to be a multi-state contract. So in that case, the RFQ, the bidding process has already occurred.
Thank you. That really solves a problem.
Okay, Mary, you can finally make a motion.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve quote Q-49641 from Lightspeed in the amount of $66,997 for wireless voice audio speakers and components under the PEPM bid consortium pricing.
Second from Chris Kiefer. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
And the last item under procurement, this one doesn't have any documents. This is for our movers. And so that's why I've kept the motions up on the screen here. It's for an increase in the authorization on the time and material basis for another $30,000 for the movers. I suspect it won't yield all of that because there's been some initial moves as well as some prep work already done just via the teachers coming over and some of the town staff and whatnot. But to finish out the rest of the moves, this is what I would anticipate should cover any remaining invoices for the last set of moves.
Okay, so this is an existing PO. This is just releasing more money.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to increase the authorization for WB Meyer for moving services by an additional $30,000 on a time and material basis under existing PO 22003854,
Okay, thank you, Mary.
with the hope that they don't need to use $30,000 to do that.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, Steve. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, and that looks unanimous. Okay, and then we get to our invoices and pay app.
So let's pull that up. So this evening, we have a number of invoices from our commissioning agent, Colliers, several of the FF&E vendors, the radio antenna vendor, as well as TSKP our architect, some of the IT vendors with the phones, the movers for the storage and moving, as well as our stormwater monitoring consultant and Newfield's pay application 23.
Hey, any questions?
The stormwater monitoring people, are they the people who are trying to figure out what we do with the pond?
No, they are, as part of an ongoing construction site, we're required to have individuals come out and monitor the perimeter of the site, namely with regard to erosion control, sediment control, the controls going in and out of parking lots when it was muddy, et cetera, to ensure that there isn't undue runoff into stormwater and public aquifers and things of that nature. So they're doing the monitoring to ensure that Newfield, the subcontractors, et cetera, are keeping it up to snuff. So we're not just slushing, dirt and debris and construction off-site as part of stormwater runoff. The people addressing the pond would be Fuss and O'Neill and Richter Segan, that's underneath TSKP as part of the design team.
It's very curious to me that we're now using the term the pond instead of the water garden. Okay, thank you.
We'll fix that. Okay,
I
Mary.
would have thought that word would have been banned by now. It was a rather sensitive issue a while back. I would like to make a motion to approve the invoice packet dated today, March 23rd, including invoices from CES, Colliers Project Leaders, Hilliard, Insulaco, JNS, Robert H. Lord, TSKP, Total Communications, WB Meyer, and Weston and Sampson in the amount of $215,756.67, and Newfield's application for payment number 23 in the amount of $178,295.30 for a total approval of $394,051.97.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there a second? Madison? All in favor of approving this invoice package? Please indicate, and that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. That will bring us to adjournment. Just before we take a motion on that, though, I would like to say that our next scheduled meeting is April 13. So I would like to convene the building committee next time at the school.
Yay.
And yes, it's during spring break. So we would like to do it at the school next time. And then with
That's
that,
great.
I,
Before we adjourn, can I ask a question? Adam had spoken before and Lauren had spoken about the need for furniture in order for people to be comfortable and what's preference versus what was ordered. And I'm just wondering about the finances of that going forward. Having the opportunity to be in the school one day last week. I sat in the chair that would be the teacher chair and thought, holy cow. This is a tricky chair for a person of my size and age to get in and out of. As other people, as people move into that space, and determine what they need and what they want to make them comfortable. Short of Lauren's point before, people bringing in things from home, I just wonder what our contingency is, our plan is for that. So that people have what they need to get the job done well and comfortably. So we don't need to talk about it today, but I just kind of wanted to put it out there as,
okay.
I do think a lot of thought was put into the FF&E, but as we know, everything's not a one size fits all. What's the most wonderful piece of furniture in my house you might find to be off-putting and not the right thing for you. So just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm sure that will be continue to be monitored as we go ahead. Okay, then,
I'd like to move we adjourn.
okay, okay, thank you, All in favor of adjournment? Signify, and we'll see you all next time.
Everyone.